All right. Hey, folks, let's see if we're up and running right now. And we'll get our social medias posted, and then we're going to get into work a little bit this morning. So my hair is weird and fluffy. What's up with that? Page art episode 4. Looking good. Page art. My mouse to work here. Sounds like the volume's good. Let's drop that down. I'm going to grab my YouTube link here and post on the social medias real quick. I'll regale you with my... someone's duping at me. There, live stream. Copy paste. There we go. Okay, cool. Hey guys, my name is Theurgy. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And we're creating an Eberron adventure. Hey, it's called Crystals of Mabar. It's for 7th and 8th level characters, 4 to 5 characters, level 7 to 8. It's taking place in the Carnwood in Karnath on the continent of Corvair. Just about me real quick. Hey, I've been a DM since 1987. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2005. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999, and I've been creating content for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, publishing on the DMsGuild since 2017. So this is the first time I've actually published an adventure, though I have been in a slew of different products like Inkwell Ideas, index card adventures. I've done maybe like 150 of those. Kind of like just training myself on low end, like 300 word random encounter stuff, adventure nugget ideas. I built a number of layers, one for each tier, 1 through 4 in the Chronomancer's Adventures in Chronomancy, creating little pocket dimensions where characters can stumble into while weaving the threads of time. And then the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration document that we published, I created a 25-page conversion guide for Latizaraxis that basically teaches you how to use the Spelljammer combat mechanics that I created in a practical setting using the guide that's included with the book. If you purchase it, you can see a link to that down below. But I'm on the X Twitter platform. If you're here as well, I'm at Theurgy. You can get coupons, notifications when I'm live, and look-sees at different works in progress and stuff that we're doing. So you are most welcome to join me here on X Twitter at Theurgy. On YouTube at Theurgy as well. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications of when we are live in the future. And here's a full playlist of all 340 episodes to date of us creating all the maps, the creature tokens, and now doing the actual page layout work. And for those that are interested in checking it out, here's a slew of the books that I've created. The mentioned Spelljammer Combat and Exploration is here. I should include Adventures in Chronomancy on this list. That's a really cool book. I ran a full 20-level campaign using that supplement, and it was hella fun. So anyway, hey, stick around. Catch up with me. I guess that's the last thing to say. But here's my Discord community. You're most welcome to hang out. Here is my Patreon. If you want to contribute $1, it gives you preferential treatment when it comes to playtesting stuff, which I do frequently. And let's dive into it. So, book cover, we made this around episode 40. You can check out the full playlist if you want to see me creating this. And here we are on page art. So as we had looked at previously, just to show you the document that I'm working on currently. Again, we have the 10 by 17 format, 17 inches wide. That fits the 16 by 9 aspect ratio that we find on cell phones, tablets, and desktops now. So you can have one full page. Like hold on here. Yeah, there we go. You can have like one full page sit on your tablet at a time, or if you turn it vertically, the aspect ratio here is 17 by 5.5, which is also within the 16 by 9 aspect ratio. So if you have a horizontal alignment, you can see a full page. If you turn it horizontally, you can see one column. So most people with good vision can actually read the content on the full. If you're using like a 12-inch tablet, or even some of you good-eyed people with cell phones can read all the text in the horizontal alignment with all 3 panels showing at the same time, which great. If you go back up into here, you can see like here's the space that we created on the page, And you can see here that we are currently in the process of filling it in with illustration. So we're going to continue that endeavor today. We have the 3 factions that are present in the adventure, and I'm going to drop that. What is going on? We got more smudge than I know. Okay, cool. So there's the local villagers where we start. We eventually encounter the Red Wolf Company mercenaries that have been hired to maintain security for the manifest zone that the characters are going to find. So they get into potential conflict or alliance with the mercenaries, depending on how the DM wants to play it and whether the team is more combat focused versus exploration and social aligned. And then there's the Emerald Claw, which are fucking incorrigible. They're the terrorist organization that stole the artifact from Ader Academy to go to this defunct research lab to get access to the materials inside to start the ritual with the artifact to create a new manifest zone and to stabilize it, and at the center of it create a permanent two-way door to Mabar that the Emerald Claw is attempting to use for making money by harvesting alchemical and spell component materials to basically sell off to the 12 and other Emerald Claw cult members, basically as a money-making scheme and as a way to gain power both in prestige, respect in the wizardly community, and since the Emerald Claw or the Blood of Vol has been denounced by Karnath basically as a concession to the last war ending, all these powerful spellcasters have suddenly lost all of their status in society, and many of them are actually on the run as war criminals. So that was a really big culture shift for the Emerald Claw members. So now they're basically outlaw cultists that are trying to reestablish their merit and worth in their society, or they become, they decide to expat themselves and begin money-making operations, as we see occurring here in this adventure. So the team resolves that. So we're making little there is no emblem for the village piece, so we're just making some background illustration with some villagers gathered to represent this, and then here's an excerpt, blah blah blah, about how the villagers are involved, what their goals are, and what they're trying to achieve. Red Wolf mercenaries, how they're involved, what they're trying to achieve. Emerald Claw, how they're involved, and what they're trying to achieve. These are the only 3 factions that the team deals with. The villagers are your launching point, and your goal and your plot hooks are all tied to the local villagers. The Emerald Claw is who you need to defeat along the way, and in the middle of those is the Red Wolf Company, which is a disbanded military police organization that was in the Karnath army that isn't needed anymore. They deal with undead threats. If undead are getting out of control, they corral them and stuff like that. That's what they do. So that's why they got hired. Very smart. So these guys can either be hip to hip with the Emerald Claw, or they could be the way that we frame it is that most of the mercenaries are this wasn't this deal is going sideways on us. We didn't think there would be this much conflict. There's people that are disappearing. There's demonic things that are starting to arise. We thought you were just firing up we thought you were firing up this facility to reclaim it as a fortress now that we're in peace. I don't know why, but that's what the claim was. Obviously something else is happening here, and this doesn't feel like the right legal thing to be doing. So these guys are trying to the Red Wolf mercenaries, if the DM chooses, are actually trying to find a way out. They are trapped in a contract with the Emerald Claw, plus they're psycho cultists that raise dead. So these guys have to tread carefully because there's a lot of vengeance that can come at the back end if this goes sideways on them. So they're happy for the characters to come in and resolve the situation and help the Red Wolf basically absolve the situation so they can be in the clear. So these guys can either become your allies during the adventure, and then afterwards, if you can extend the campaign, they're looking for work. You can hire them into your bastion if you decide to take over the facility as your own. So a lot of cool stuff there. And then we have all the different locations inside the adventure. We'll have a map here showing just basically the region as a whole. And then we're looking at the different plot hooks, different ways the characters can get involved in the antics that are happening. It's a location-based campaign. So all the things that are happening here happen here, as in wherever your character is at is where the adventure is happening right now, and there's different things that are happening depending on where your characters are at, but none of it is specifically timed. Like, you can't have things happen in this region until like stuff happens in this region. It's like, no, you're just naturally going to move from the village through the forest into the manifest zone into the research facility. So you're just naturally moving through the adventure as you're moving through space. And as you bump into these different things, you get this onion layer of like the further away from the manifest zone, the less, like, the more ignorant the information is. The villagers don't know shit. The Red Wolf mercenaries that you might encounter in the forest, they're just observing what's going on around them and have like speculations and musings about what's happening in the manifest zone. Once you get into the manifest zone, the soldiers, there's no more villagers. The soldiers know that stuff is going wrong here, and they're speculative about what's actually going on inside the ritual nexus. And then you move into the facility, and there are soldiers and Emerald Claw cultists and stuff like in there, and they generally have an idea of what's going on and speculate. Well, the soldiers are speculating about people showing up mysteriously and never being seen again, or people they know disappearing and they don't know what's going on with that, and it's frightening to them and they're not getting the information that they need. So as your team moves further and further into higher and higher levels of security, they get access to more and more information, and the motives become more severe as they move into it. And the Red Wolf mercenaries either become more cultist or become more insecure and open to changing. So you can pull the levers on combat versus exploration versus social interaction, depending on how you want, basically how the players lead you. If they want to create allies and form non-threatening solutions, they can do that. And if your team, as a DM, you know that going in, you might choose a different type of plot hook. So the further forward in the plots that you look, the less combative it's supposed to be. This is just this is a stealth mission here, basically. Ader Academy, also a stealth mission. The Church of the Silver Flame and the Gatekeepers, they want to destroy the manifest zone, so that is high hostile. Friends and family have been kidnapped, so that's assumed to be hostile, but it's actually a rescue mission. You need to get them out alive, so that's also a stealth mission. So any of these stealth missions can be treated as exploration or social pillar leaning, just depending on how much you like to explore and interact with stuff and make die rolls versus being able to interact. So you could literally get through, assuming you can get into the research facility by avoiding trouble. You could go through the entire adventure without any combat if you wanted to, or you could make the adventure nothing but combat if you wanted to. You could make it a stealth mission where you don't want to be discovered, or you can make it a diplomacy mission where you're going in with authority and you're trying to change the mind of the people that are involved here to look at the situation differently and to make concessions and make changes depending on what your goals are inside the plot. And each plot hook is described in depth in the appendix at the back of the book, which we'll eventually be getting to illustrate. So that's probably more pontification than was necessary. So we're going to keep working here. I've got about an hour this morning, and we'll be back up. It looks like I'm just not streaming on Monday mornings, so I'm going to accept that. So it looks like I stream 9 days a week, not 10. And so in the mornings we do artwork like this. At lunch times and evenings, including today, we work on different game material, depending on what other books we're working on. And on Mondays and Thursday nights, including last night, we do game design. We're working on the color mana conversion, so you can check all that stuff out if you are interested. So I'm going to use this circle. I'm just going to create some negative space here. And we're using the black line as our eraser, and we're using the eraser as our paintbrush. I'm inverting it. Why? Because it felt right. See, now we're extending on beyond the circle, so I'm going to add that in while carving it out inside of the space. So we're looking at this. Something like that. I have to reference a wolf. That's what I need to do. So apparently I don't know what one looks like. But it's a cool patch. So let's go grab a reference of a howling wolf. Wolf howl at moon. That's what we're talking about right there. So let's copy that image and see if it comes through. Excellent. There. Okay, cool. So back on track. Let's flip this. Yeah, I know, pretty classic, right? Throat strike, though. That's good. Who made this? Wolf Howling at Moon. Images subjected to copyrights. Let's go find it. It's on eBay. This was created by... Well, it could be AI. Who knows? Designed by Paper General. Well, thank you, Paper General, for the work that you do. It's just a patch, so I don't need the same level of detail as we'd see in this reference. I do need to get it right. Hey, what's up? Rel, what's up, my guy? Maybe like that. I like it breaking frame like that. It's less practical as a patch, so I have to consider that. I feel like this should be a little further back, so let's sculpt that a little bit more to here. Oh, there we go. That's starting to feel pretty reflexive there. Just being a circle would certainly make it easier to sew one of these things on. I'm really considering the practicality of that. But as a crest, like as a banner or just like something around the house, this does feel more stylized, and I like it more. So maybe I'll just go ahead and go with the artsy frame break, but when I depict soldiers with this patch on. Otherwise, I'll simplify it. Working inverted like this is interesting. I'm not used to erasing and carving things out to create images. It's more of like a wood carving sort of approach. Tricky because I have to keep inverting things. That's starting to look right. What's going on, Rel? We revised the Bard for 5e, the core mechanics of the Bard last night on stream, and so at lunchtime today, I think I'm going to tackle the scaffolding of Cleric. So then Thursday night, so we have Bard, Cleric, Druid. What comes after Druid? Sorcerer, Wizard. And then and then Warlock again. So, so Monday, and then Tuesday today Cleric, and then Druid Thursday, and then Sorcerer on Friday, and then Wizard on Saturday, Warlock on Monday, and that will resolve. the subclass revisions, or the all the base classes, and then from there we'll go in and look at the subclasses that were picked up for 2025, and probably include those in with the book. Maybe I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see what we want in there. It kind of makes sense to include the subclasses that are in the PHB into the revised color mana formatting. I'm going to bring this down here. There we go. Holy crap, this is looking pretty good. Big thanks to Paper General for the reference. Work is always better when you use references. There's a debate that happens amongst young artists about whether it's like ethical or correct or whatever to use references. The answer is yes. Yes, I have flat out had, when I've had poor anatomy or design in the past, I've had art directors flat out say, show me the references that you're using for this piece. And when I show them what I'm using, they're like, no, try using this instead, go back. And so now when I do projects, I always require a reference from the client, whether it's a business or it's a private commission. I want a reference for me to have an idea what's in your head. When people want to hire me, I ask them to reference what images they saw of mine that convinced them that they wanted to hire me in the first place, so I have an idea of what their expectations are. And then also provide me a reference for this for something that you're envisioning that we're working with. Like, what is this being inspired by? So that stuff is pretty mandatory for me to be able to successfully build a project. Feels better. You always want references. I don't need to have that there. Skip that too, but now that chin feels too long, so I'm going to carve that in. Hey, what's up? Why wouldn't it be unethical to use references? Some people feel like they're failing as an artist if they have to look at something while they do it. Like, I'm not like to. So if you're good enough as an artist, you can trace, right? You can just basically look at something and trace it because you have enough eye-hand coordination now. Like when you originally trace, right? If you have an image like this, and if you're going to trace it, then you're just going along here like that, right? But after a while, you can just, that's not perfect, but that's where your style comes in. I talk about your style of art is your inability to perfectly reproduce reality. So if this open square here was like the picture of like a photograph of a wolf, and this is how I translate that image, I mean, obviously I could do something like, we can extend it out a little bit and then make it look more appropriate here. That's closer, but not perfect to what I have up above. So it's a decent representation of it, right? So I could take this and I could bring this in a little bit, and there, not too bad of a reproduction of this random squiggle that I made, right? Some people would say if I can't just freehand this without, like, if I would have to know what that thing was, and I can just reproduce it from memory to be a good artist. That's not a good artist. That's just being, and that's just having idyllic memory. So, eidetic memory, or like photographic memory. Like, you can never forget the details of something that happens in your life. I've known people like that. They're fucking miserable because their internal monologue refuses to convince them that they're actually good people. They have to live with the mistakes that they make their entire life and just relive it without any kind of alteration. It's a very special sort of hell. And I do not, you really got to have your emotions like really keyed in to not get damaged by that kind of shit. But I digress. So yeah, a lot of young artists mistake photographic memory for being a good artist. It's just a delusion that they have. It's that they have this image, ironically, in their mind of what they think a good artist is. And a lot of times it doesn't take into account, humility. Like, I don't know what a fucking wolf looks like. I better look it up so that when you look at it, your brain, if you know a wolf better than I do, your brain goes, that's a wolf, as opposed to, here's all the things that you attempted to do with a wolf and you fucked up. It's just stinking thinking, really. But again, those are the kind of things that artists fight to figure out who they are. Like, how are they going to build themselves? It's also a reason why a lot of artists stagnate, because they don't realize what they don't realize. They don't know what they're missing because they're not using references enough to be able to start seeing, oh yeah, I did this wrong, or this could have been done better this way, or oh, look at that angle, that's interesting. Fill that in here. But I will say this, if you go back and you look at the Spelljammer stream, when I was translating the Light as Araxis adventure into the Spelljammer mechanics that we have, I was saying how fucking difficult it was for me to figure out the layouts and how to express the information in the Light as Araxis conversion guide. Like, I'd never done something that intensely organized before. The easy thing, I'll tell you this, it's easy creating player options or like a different kind of mechanics for a game, because all you're really doing is just listing things out. Here's a thing you can do. Here's a thing you can do. Ooh, look at this idea. And all you really got to do is structure them logically. It's basically just a really ornate list with a lot of additional description inside of each bullet point of the list. And that's like an entire book. You just organize it. But an adventure has a lot more going on. Not only is there technical information, but you also have to make sure that the narrative language, like to explain what's actually happening in the adventure, is being properly expressed and fits inside the space that's available for it. As well as all the technical information of like the encounters that you have, the map environments that the characters are exploring. These are all technical details that have variable lengths of information or illustration in finite spaces that needs to be consistent throughout the adventure. So like, I need to use the same resolution and size, and I'm still figuring out, do I actually need to have consistent size of map illustrations throughout the adventure, or can I change them to fit the space? I'm still establishing that. I'm still establishing the proper way of actually presenting the information. So I think what I have now, this is what I was messing with previously, like the front end of the adventure. We have the summary of the adventure. We have the locations and travel time, scope, resting, long rest, short rest, snow rests. Then we have the conditions and hazards, and then we have the here. I'll show you. right? And then we have the locations, and then we have the plot hooks, and then we have running the adventure, taking rests, weather, and conditions, right? So you have here summary, map weather, resting, conditions. Those are the things that are relevant to other portions of the adventure. The adventure is broken into 3 parts, and each part has different regions. So like part 1 has 2 regions, the village and the surrounding forest north. Part 2 is actually inside the manifest zone, which has the manifest zone itself and then the 3 locations within it. So there's 4 regions. And then part 3 is the actual underground facility, which is only 1 region. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 different regions throughout the entire adventure that all have their own maps. And so what I need to do is figure out, like, how do I want to structure these things? What's the best way for me to be able to show information and flow through the document logically on, like, what's the different points that your mind's going to be thinking about as you read the content. So that's how we need to layer the information to be able to intuitively follow the flow of thought that you're going to have. So in the part 1, region A is the village. Summary of the village, we have the map and all the different, we have the visual of the map itself, and then we move down into the separate regions. Hold on, something's squirming in my brain. That's what was squirming in my brain. There. So we have our map. There's, let's see, summary, map and travel. So then when we redo this, so looking at Edge of Darkness here is a summary of the region. We should actually move this okay, so we have the region itself, like part 1, and then we have area 1. Probably need It's 2 sections. We have the environment. Okay, so we have part 1 summary. Map and travel. Yeah, map and travel. That's fine to be together. Okay, so we're looking at yeah. Okay, so I think I'm getting it. Starting the adventure, deputize. Here's your plot hook, and we have the actual beginning of part 1. So this left column here would be a quick summary of basically what's going on inside of this part of the adventure, and then we would have the regional map of the village and the forest, and then the manifest zone beyond to show the path of travel that the character is going to take. And then we would zoom into each part separately. Yeah. So I'm going to want to drop a map in here of the region, and then a map specifically of the village. And then as we go into each section of the village, we'll have a separate map of each building or whatever it is that you've got going on. Just like when we get into the dungeons, we'll zoom into like specific rooms of the dungeon to drop at the end of each descriptive column. So we have to have enough space in each of these columns to be able to depict whatever it is that's being depicted. So, and then we have the added complication here because there's basically there's 2 points. There's 2 ways to express the map. Village peacefulness when you're talking to people, and then at night when it's being attacked by undead. So we don't actually need a map at all during the daytime, but we do need a map for combat for fighting undead. So this map is going to this one is a peaceful map, but we're eventually going to go to the violent bloody map. That should probably be here. So we can have on this page, we can have the region, we can have a forest map, the clean village map here, and then the edge of the manifest zone map, basically occupying however much of the space that we need. And then when we get into the actual village, we can have the bloodied, the combat, the bloodied map. This is actually a peace map. There's trails of blood and stuff going on throughout all these buildings, and the battle map that we have, like for the undead attack. I'm still sorting that out. I'm still sorting out how am I actually supposed to parse all this information. But that's the challenge that I'm facing. So we've got the first part of the adventure taken care of, so that's why we're working on the text here, or the illustrations, because this part is good. But we're still sussing out, like, how do I actually need to layer all of this information in? And I had a similar crisis when I was starting to build the conversion guide for Light as Araxis, and it took us a while, but we figured it out, and I think it turned out pretty damn good. So I'm really happy with that. But it took a lot more work than I realized it was going to take, and sadly, I'm getting to a place where I'm feeling that way about this. Like, adventures are so much more difficult than just doing an option of books. That's essentially a glorified extended list. So we're figuring it out, and I don't like how that mouth has been rebuilt. I want to go back to, yeah, I'm just gonna keep it simple like that, and then maybe add a bit of a, squirrels are screaming at each other. There's squirrels and there's frogs outside right now. We'll probably start getting some crows here in a little bit. It's still a little dark for birds. I'm gonna thin that down. Oh, there we go. There we are. Red Wolf, we picked the title Red Wolf for the mercenaries specifically because the adventure is concerned or pays attention to the moon. There's 13 moons in Eberron, so I mean, you know, how do you pick? Well, each moon is associated with a different plane of existence in the Eberron cosmology, and Sephiroth is the moon related, devoted to the plane of Mabar, which is the focus of interest in this adventure, the plane of darkness and things that go bump in the dark, undead, stuff like that. Let's curve that out just a touch. Bring that in, and then we can we'll fix that curve. Right now I'm settling how much do I want to actually break frame now. This is a little bit too round. I'm going to bring that in just a touch. Too much of a curve gives it sort of a badger feel, so I have to pay attention to that. But some curvature I think feels natural. Smooth that out. Curve that off. Is that gonna feel right? Yeah. Let's grab. Let's duplicate this. Just gonna do some opacity here so we can line these things up properly. Select inverse, and then erase along the edge here to make sure we keep these clean. Maybe I don't need anything down there. Thank you, Soundly Timer. Where are we at? 7:30? Cool. Skull's feeling a little stubby. That's all good, but this needs to be longer. So that is inaccurate. So let's push this out a little bit further. That, fill that in. There, like that. Is that right? There. If I can get that ear right, we're going to be sitting pretty. let's drop that out again. Hey, how you doing, Dane? I don't think I've seen you run before. Yeah, right on, man. Welcome to the mix. You can check out the very beginning of the stream when I go through an intro stuff. Yeah, Crystals of Mabar. It's I publish stuff on DMsGuild. In the description down below, there's a ton of different books I've created already. But this is in Karnath. Your characters are deputized to look into people disappearing from a new village. The idea here is that there's a ton of villages that are popping up now that the war is over. There's Syrian refugees as well as retired soldiers and people that have been displaced by battle. The natural result of this is to have little like pop-up communities, little settlements forming that are farming communities. And Karnath has absolutely no need to be concerned about little farming villages. They do need a ton of food. So they're like, yeah, if you want to drop anchor and start farming, that's awesome. Welcome to the mix. So they've basically just been putting a blind eye to anybody that's been willing to come in, settle, and farm. But farmland becomes more and more of a premium. So now these displaced people are starting to form little settlements along the Carnwood, which is known to be haunted. There's a powerful manifest zone in there that at one point became inert. And there's an artifact in Aether Academy that if used properly can create and stabilize a manifest zone to the plane of Mabar. Since there's a defunct manifest zone in the Carnwood, some Emerald Claw cultists liberated the artifact from Aether Academy archives, took it into the forest, and have been conducting the ritual to awaken the manifest zone for money, for profit, basically. If they can create a stable plane, a stable portal to the plane of Mabar, they can go in and they can harvest material from it. Mabar crystals, exotic natural plants that can be brewed into different type of alchemical properties, which we have all the information for in Appendix 2. It's like you can make like this mushroom stew. If you drink it, you gain night vision until you take a short or a long rest, for instance. Antitoxins, different poison effects, and of course material components. The crystals in Mabar themselves can be used for darkness and undead rituals, and like they have a monetary value. And if you need a 500 gold piece sapphire to speak with dead, you just need 500 gold pieces worth of this crystal substance, which is the actual dirt in the plane of Mabar, like the entire plane of Mabar. All you gotta do is just grab a fistful of this stuff, and like this is like 50 gold pieces worth of material components if I want to cast a darkness or a necromancy spell, like Speak with Dead or Raise Dead or Animate Dead. I can just literally just grab dirt and throw it on a corpse and say rise, and it will. It's that intense. So they're like, yeah, we want that. That's an easy source of power and money for us. We can reestablish ourselves that way. So that's what the cultists are doing. Meanwhile, the manifest zone is getting a little crazy because the site where they're performing this used to be a place where they perform necromantic experiments, which of course means there's shitloads of unmarked graves. So as they create the manifest zone and the power of Mabar starts to seep into the environment, it's animating all the corpses, and they're freely intelligent undead. So they're just drifting off, attacking shit, and the first thing they find are these villages. So the village is like, we've got this problem going on here. We don't know what to do about it. So your team is sent to investigate the complaints, and you discover the manifest zone and all the shenanigans that are going on, and you decide to take some sort of action towards it. And there's an underground facility. There's a dilapidated fortress above ground. If your team is interested, after you play this out, you can take possession of the fortress, under care. You're hired by Fort Bastion, right? So under the care of Fort Bastion, this fort now becomes an eastern reach that is going to be able to provide service and security to all of these new settlements that are forming, because in the South Heartland of Karnath is where the Talenta Plains are, and after 500 years of war, the halflings kind of have migrated into Karnath. So there's a lot of activity in the southeast area about redefining borders, kind of like the Wild West of America with the indigenous people and the buffalo herds and settlers pushing out. Instead of America pushing westward, it's Karnath pushing south and eastward. But it used to be their land. It got reclaimed it got taken by the halflings because there was no one there to stop them. Now there's all this attention, like we need to reclaim our heartland so we can grow more food. So there's increased levels of sheriff and like outrider activity, right? Like regulators and stuff like that. So if you wanted to get into a regulator sort of campaign, Karnath's actually a really good place to do it. I know that Threshold just got released by Keith Baker on DMsGuild. And hold on real quick. I'll show you. I'm on a major tangent here, but hey, this is kind of how the stream works, right? Once you get into the groove of it, it's all the time. So let's go to DMsGuild.com, and you can see, Keith Baker just created the new Threshold book, Frontiers of Eberron Quickstone. That's not Threshold, Quickstone. That takes place between Breland and Droam, as a Wild West sort of like Nevada, deserty sort of area. But again, if you want to stick with that Wild West motif, you can go to Karnath and fight Talenta halflings if you want to instead. So that's kind of the theme of the adventure. So we're building out all the components that go with it. And just for bragging rights, for those that don't know that are interested, the Subclasses Revivified, I built all the monks in this book. And they're actually in my playlist stream, if you look at my live streams. If you look at I think it was 4 episodes called Forgotten Monks, you can check that out. All that content is here in this Revivified book, and I'm proud that it's number 2. When Keith Baker launches a new book, the best you can ever hope for is number 2. So that's another one of the books that we just put out. I'm really happy, and here's a slew of other books. So anyway, that's a real quick crash course in what we've got going on here. What I'm doing right now specifically is making a military emblem for the Red Wolf Mercenary Guild. They used to be a company of recon and military police in the Karnath army that was decommissioned at the end of the war. So it's now a bunch of displaced veterans that a lot of them, all they've ever done in their life was soldier. So like, what the fuck are we supposed to do now? So these various adventuring guilds or like mercenary guilds are cropping up to basically give veteran soldiers work in a dangerous world. So the team encountered these guys got hired by the Emerald Claw, because the Emerald Claw is mostly made of retired or what's the word I'm looking for? I will just say decommissioned. Decommissioned officers, since undead are no longer needed for the military, no longer are necromancers needed. And they were denounced as part of the treaty. And so all of these necromancers that previously had like a lot of military intelligence, including like what might be at Aether Academy and different locations of defunct forts. One guy, Solzu Trenaris, he's a high standing. He was a captain that oversaw legions of undead and necromancers, and he knows all about like the location of the manifest zone and the artifact and different things that are in Aether Academy. He's like, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. You got a posse together. They hired the Red Wolves to act as security once they got the manifest zone up and running. They didn't know about the villages, but once they did, they're like, oh yeah, we can use these villagers. We can sacrifice them during the ritual. Great. They were going to sacrifice members of the Red Wolves and just like play dumb and hopefully to string them on long enough to get the ritual completed before they just killed the rest of them. But now that there's these helpless villagers, are like, oh yeah, we're just going to go out and grab some of them. Like, what a win. What a huge win for the Emerald Claws. But now your characters are deputized, which gives you the right to ask any questions that you want. The Red Wolves are not cool with the sacrifice stuff going on, but they're also afraid to quit because cultists. So they're trapped. So they're really happy that your characters show up. If you can get in good relations with the military or with this adventuring Red Wolves, they'll help your team, or they'll at least stay out of the way, and you can hire them later to man your bastion. If you decide to take over the area as like the law enforcement of the region, these become your troops. So like, oh yeah, we used to do MP work back in the day. We would love to do patrol work and help. That's such a much better thing. So your team could fight these guys, but if you ally with them, they become a really great resource for a longer standing campaign. So I've been rambling for a little bit, which means I'm not reading text, and that's kind of how I do. Yeah. Oh, and there's 6 different plot hooks. So here's the actual adventure that I'm building right now. I'm still working on layouts, but there's 6 different plot hooks. Like the 12 is funding the operation. So when the Emerald Claw goes radio, they stop using their sending stones, and they shut down the teleportation circle that the 12 was using to pipe in materials and take all the wealth out to redistribute. When the Emerald Claw goes quiet, they figure, oh yeah, another bunch of asshole necromancers are double crossing us. They send your team, instead of being deputized, your team is actually a wet work team hired by the 12 to shut down the operations and get the teleportation circle back up. So you're blind plane shifted into the facility, and for you it becomes a stealth mission. We got to get the teleportation circle back up and running before we get killed, so that we can have more mercenaries come in and overwhelm the place and reestablish control. And all your job is to get the teleportation circle working again. And you have specific, in the appendix down at the bottom here, there's different bullet points about, let's get past this. I'm on a huge tangent right now, but I can't help it. So I don't mind at all. I just geek out on this shit. So like, if you are, here's the various plot, appendix 3 is variant plot hooks. So, if you're using plot hook 1, hired by the 12 to reestablish control of this place, your plot hook, you get different information about what's going on here. Like, you know a lot more than the deputies do. You get different resources. Like, they give you everything that you need to be able to complete your mission, and they give you different rewards based on how well you succeed the objective and how much trouble there is during it. But you could also be hired by Aether Academy to reclaim the artifact and to gather evidence about the Emerald Claw stealing it. So that's another espionage mission where you're just there. You're not supposed to stop anything. They give you a crystal that you can take pictures with. It's basically a cell phone. It's a camera. So anything you look through the crystal at and you concentrate, like take a bonus action, it'll snap a picture of whatever you can see through the crystal. And then they can look through the crystal and they can see it. It's like, well, yeah, there's Emerald Claw cultists there. This is good evidence. Thank you. And then they can use that as evidence. And your objectives are different, as opposed to like if you're hired by the gatekeepers. Like gatekeepers know there's a manifest zone that got shut down a long time ago, and it's going to be big trouble. So you are tree strided into the manifest zone to kill everyone there. No questions asked. Kill everyone. Here's a gate seal. When you find the nexus, drop the gate seal on it. It'll permanently kill the manifest zone. That is your objective. So like everyone's objectives are different depending on what plot hook you take. So like if you're if you're a professional DM that likes to learn an adventure and use it over and over again, but is looking for content in Eberron at a high enough level to like, oh yeah, there's some punch here. Like level 7 and 8 is a pretty good punching level for an Eberron adventure. And this provides you with enough content as a professional DM that you could play it completely different every time you run it. You could even do something like have a one-shot as Aether Academy, and then the team gets killed, and then you start a normal campaign, and then like 10 episodes into the normal campaign, you're deputized, and you lead back into the place from the outside. When you plane shift in as a wet work team, all you know is the research facility, the underground dungeon, but there's the village and the forest and the manifest zone and all the structure on top of it that leads down into the facility. So you can start as a one shot inside of it, get killed. It's like, okay, that was fun. And then you start a normal campaign, and then 10 adventures in, you get deputized, and now your characters are heading into the adventure from the outside. And at some point, you're going to end up in a room that the players have seen before. They're like, oh! And now they have a bunch of player information that they can use as meta logic for them to further sculpt how do they want to resolve the situation. Because you plan for them to be able to have that information in their head knowing what's going on. A really, really fun shit you can do. So anyway, that's what I'm geeking out over right now. So, sorry. But yeah, so when we finally get this thing finished, and I have no idea how long it's going to actually take for us to build it. I just keep building it until it's done. So that's what we do here. And but yeah, that's Crystals of Mavar. Anyway, geeking out. Don't mind me. Yeah. We worked on this for quite some time. We worked on it a lot. So now it's just a matter of I'm still figuring out how to make all the information fit on pages nicely. And so I got the first 7 pages done and the last 27 pages done. It's like 102 pages in total. So like 32 pages of it are done. So that's great. The only thing I have to really take care of is like the actual like how to frame all the dungeon rooms and stuff like that, like how to organize that properly. But I had a similar problem when I did the conversion guide for Light of Zaraxis. So like I was saying earlier, I'll figure it out. It's just I have no idea how much torment and hate I have to go through to get to that place. But adventures are way more difficult, way more difficult to build than just DM options or character facing options. Because like I was saying, those are just lists. Here's a list of fucking cool feats. 20 pages later of feats, you're done. All I had to do was list them alphabetically. It was easy. But there's so much more complexity involved with an adventure that it requires its own formatting, and every single area of the map is like its own little challenge. So I've been creating 5th edition content off and on for the past 7 years, and this is the first time I've tackled like an entire adventure on my own, and by God, it's fucking difficult. But once I figure it out, I'll know how to do it again. And there's a couple other adventures in Eberron that I want to build that I'm pretty excited about. But we got to get one step at a time. So one step at a time, we'll get there. But yeah, I stream in the mornings. Sometimes if I'm going to miss a day, it's going to be Monday. But otherwise, 5 days a week in the morning, just like this. And then at lunchtime on Tuesdays and Fridays, like today, we do game design. And then Mondays and Thursday nights, like last night, we also do game design. It just depends on what book I'm working on at the time. We bounce from thing to thing, mostly to prevent burnout. Like if all I was working on was this book, I would be tearing my hair out. It would be horrible. But I have other books that I can move to at different stages for me to be able to like clean my palette, so that I can come back and work on this every day. Because yesterday I was working on revising the bards. Today I'll be working on clerics. Blah blah blah. That feels pretty good. And then on Saturday, I have a 3-hour brunch workbench where I either do like cover art or more design work. We've been so focused on the color mana spell point variant rule revisions and the martial power systems that's basically how I've been spending all my off time. But that's a pretty sprawling project too. And we're looking good for playtesting starting at the beginning of November. I'm going the mega dungeon route for playtesting the martial powers, starting at 3rd level. So I'm just basically grabbing a dungeons random generator and creating dungeon spaces. Throw some characters in there and have them grind shit using mana, and we'll see how it shakes out. There, like that. I want to be careful about my level of details. It's technically supposed to be a patch. It's more of a banner right now, but this emblem is going to be patches on the armor of the soldiers. So I want to be mindful of that. I'm not liking. Maybe if I tilt it just a bit more. There we go. It would be ideal. Do I want to trim that like that? Nah, I think I want to extend that down. We'll do that. So there's 3 different factions. There's the local villagers that are asking for help, the Red Wolf mercenaries that got hired by the Emerald Claw to keep villagers away from the Manifest Zone. And once you get through that into the Manifest Zone, you start fucking around with the Emerald Claw directly. So you have these 3 different factions that all have their own goals and objectives that you are basically negotiating your way through. So I think I can make this larger. That feels like it fills the space better. And then, but then we have the problem of the Emerald Claw, because I have this stupid factions text here to be able to add context for why each of these things is on the page. So I can afford I can afford this to be larger, but this can't be that large. And we're about 8 minutes away from being done for the day. So, but I like this. I think that's a cool emblem, like as an arm patch or like on your chest. I think it's a decent piece. I like it. I like it a lot. So, I'm going to drop that stuff away so I can make sure this is centered in its space properly. And of course, there's just the Emerald Claw, the green flame hand claw. That's pretty easy for me to duplicate over here. I could I'd have more space if I did it horizontally, but it's depicted vertically, so that's a thing. But I'll be able to drop that in easy enough. Just want to get this centered a little bit better. And it has this horizontal alignment. This is a 16:9 ratio, which fits on a tablet, or a cell phone, or a widescreen, or widescreen desktop monitor. And each of the columns, there's 3 columns per page, and this is a 9:16 ratio, 10 inches tall, 5.5 inches wide, which is actually a 16:8 ratio. So all this fits on. When you hold your phone horizontally, you can look at one panel at a time, and when you flip it sideways, vertically 1 column at a time, vertically 1 page at a time. So you can either take in all of the information that's on the page, and on a 12-inch tablet, people with decent vision can read all of that just fine, or you can flip it sideways to zoom in specifically on whatever information you need in the moment. So it's pretty easily navigated in that manner. I'm actually pretty proud of that. You know what I could potentially do is drop the amount of space that the Emerald Claw needs here. Like if I were to drop down to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like if I was able to drop the information, it's like that's all I would need. Like I'd have to get rid of about 1, 2, I'd have to get rid of 3 lines of text in the description of the Emerald Claw to be able to get this bubble effect to properly fit. It'd have to be 4. Wrong thing, Kearney. There you go. Yeah, I would have to trim the information down to about like that for me to have the same amount of space. This is the stuff that we're figuring out right now. Like that would fit fine. So what if we did that? How would that feel? It'd feel off balance. I would have to take the Emerald. I'd have to take this and drop it here, which means we would need to get rid of 2 lines of text from here. If I can do, you know what? Honestly, that doesn't feel too bad. I'm gonna have to fight with that. Looks like I have a new task I have to perform this evening. So, but that doesn't feel out of balance. Let's take all of this here. Grab a layer mask. I'm gonna pull the text out. This is gonna end up being more like this, right? I can't have stuff up here in the margins. That's got to go away. I feel like I'm neglecting text. No, right on, man. Yeah, I've been an Eberron fanboy since about 2005. So it's just such a great setting. It is the absolute best world to homebrew inside of, and since there's such a divestment from canon, you know, like Keith has his canon, but he really just kind of sets up the world as like, you should go fuck around with this, do whatever you want with it. And I'm running a Spelljammer Eberron campaign where the Tears of Sybaris that surround, or the is that what it's called? No, it's not called the Tears of Sybaris. The Ring of Sybaris. The asteroids that surround the planet. The campaign is an asteroid belt mining operation where Warforged dwarves and gnomes go up into orbit to harvest crystals and precious materials and fight all the aberrations and monsters that occupy that area for basically wealth and fortune. And there's different, the way the campaign is structured is like Droam has a mining operation, Aranel is in orbit growing giant trees to send off into space to populate the world. Like elves have like these 10-mile trees that take centuries to grow. So they form these asteroids, communities to tend to this tree that's growing. And once it's large enough, they just move off of the asteroids into the tree, and then they kick it off and just slowly drifts through wild space for thousands of years until it finds a new place. But elves are immortal, so they don't care. Just take your time. Just do it right and show up. And when they find a new place to hang, they start populating that planet. And then Dargoon, they have an asteroid mining operation as well, because the small amount of land that they're limited to on Corvair, they're like, yeah, we'll just take our chances in orbit and rebuild something there for ourselves, and so they do, and then the so the characters the players run a guild, an asteroid mining guild. They have a military with some warships and mecha, combat mecha that they can take and fight giant creatures. Like they were fighting 2 adventures ago. They were hunting 200-foot dark mantles that were hunting the ore supplies that the characters were trying to extract from the region. So they had to hunt down the kaiju-sized creatures so that they wouldn't run away with their ships. So they were running around in 30-foot mecha, like Gundam, basically, or Evangelion, Escaflowne, as you would. That's basically fighting all this stuff. That was cool. Right now they're exploring some sort of Dalkir temple that they found in the heart of an asteroid. And the mining crew is like, yeah, there's weird evil shit going on here. We're done. We won't come back to this asteroid until you find out what's going on in there. So the team is trying to see if it's a threat or not, steal anything they can from it that's valuable, and then shut down the rest of it. So they can get it has electrum ore. So they're like, yeah, we want that electrum. But we got to get rid of the evil, and they're finding all sorts of weird shit going on inside the temple. So it just becomes, you know, like a shadow dark sort of dungeon delve into madness. And if they're successful, they'll be able to extract. You know, they'll be able to resume their mining operations if they can suss it out. So fun little campaign, but that's how flexible Eberron as a world is, and it's super fun. I love Eberron. It is by far just the best, the best world to build adventures in for D&D. Regardless of the edition, it doesn't matter what edition you play. BECME, first, second, third, where it was built, fourth, fifth, doesn't matter. Bar none, best. All right, we're out of time. Yeah. Oh shit, I'm over time. It's 8:03. Yeah, Arena Cerberus. All right, that's it. I gotta go. I'm just kind of fucking around. I'll be back. I'm gonna be back in about. I'll be back at 2:00 Seattle time. That's 6 hours from now. So 6 hours from now, we'll be back on. We're going to be messing around with the color mana system. We'll be translating the 2024 clerics into the color mana system. We'll be going through its scaffold to see what can stay and what needs to change. And we'll be back tomorrow morning to continue with this. Tonight, when I'm off screen, I'll be working on the text here to see if I can realistically drop it down a few points so I can open up some space to have the same space that these guys have. We'll see where we get. So stay tuned. I'll be back. And so like, subscribe, bell icon, notifications, blah, blah, blah. And see everybody on the other side. Thanks a lot.